Cincinnati, Ohio. We are currently the Big East champions. That will probably sadly change on Wednesday when we lose. So there's a picture from us last year, our basketball team. I drink a lot of coffee, keep me going. The center picture is me and my friend Emily. That's us studying one night, and then that same night, that's my friend Morgan in the bottom right. And then in the top right, that's a bacteria I'm looking at right now in lab called, it's a gram-positive bacillus bacteria, kind of like what causes strep throat, streptococcus. So my education, I went to Brown Elementary School, and then Mahoney Middle School, and then the high school, and now I'm at this beautiful campus of Xavier University. So I just want to give you guys a little precursor before we get into things. I'm going to be talking about my experience during my senior internship and what that got me. I'm not going to be giving you guys a sales pitch. That's not what I'm here for. There's different ways to gain experience, and there are other ways besides the senior internship. I'm going to talk about my experience in college and what I've taken away from it. But I'm not going to convince you to go to Xavier. Xavier's not paying me to be here, so I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for college and life overall about how to succeed, what I've learned, what I wish I knew going into college. But it's not going to be if you do this, you get an A. It's not that simple. Everyone's different. Every class is different. Every university is different. And then I'm going to talk about a pre-med track for those who are interested. I'm a pre-med student, so about what that entails and how that kind of makes your college career a little bit different. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to convince you to do anything. I'm not going to convince you to be a pre-med. You kind of have to seek that out for yourself. And then last of all, I'm not going to scare you. That's not my intention here. My intention is just to inform you about stuff I wish I knew and stuff that I've come across. So a little bit about my senior internship. I did my senior internship at Intermed Pediatrics in South Portland. So I got to see actual patients and go in and experience, is that something I want to do? Do I like that patient interaction, or do I want to be more in the lab when I grow up? I also got to learn about childhood development and realize that's something I'm really interested in, and I'm actually taking a few classes in that right now, and about how childhood can actually expose a lot about human beings and innate behaviors. And then I learned a lot about parenting, which is just kind of a side advantage. It's not as easy as it seems. You should all thank your parents tonight. And then I got to work with a pediatric nurse practitioner and see, do I want to become a nurse practitioner? Do I want to become a nurse? And I realized that although I like interacting with patients, that maybe being a nurse practitioner isn't the right option for me, and I should go to medical school and get a doctorate. So what I took away, I got workplace experience, which I'll talk about a little bit more later, and how important that is to later on in your career. And then I also got a resume and reference from my mentor. When I applied to college, my mentor wrote me a great letter of recommendation. And then for internships this summer that I applied to, she also wrote me a great letter of recommendation. And it's probably one of the main reasons I got the internship I have this coming summer. And then I also got connections. I got to know people through that who also know other people, and kind of doing that networking through that. So what it got me, this summer I'll be working for a program called Breakthrough Cincinnati. It's where I serve at high-risk students of dropping out of high school and teach them math and science in like a camp fashion. It's a paid position. I get free housing. I get a $1,000 food stipend. So like things really do build off each other, and it really can help you. Although my senior internship, you don't get paid, and you're learning from those experiences, they do build to bigger and better things. Can everyone hear me okay in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason, something I didn't really understand before I left high school was this idea of experience needed, which kind of becomes the most two dreaded words of college. Everything that you apply to, it says experience needed, and when you start thinking about it, how can you get experience if you can't get started in it? So one of the big things is opportunities build from each other. That as you get one opportunity, another opportunity will present itself because you got that. And so this is like my example of working at Breakthrough Cincinnati. This is how this happened. Through my senior internship, I was able to get the reference and the recommendation to then get this bigger and more high-paying and more diverse, almost a higher level, I'll say, internship. And then there's also the concept of knowing a person who knows someone who is. And that's how I got my internship to start off with. Knowing that my mom's friend was a nurse practitioner who'd be okay with that. Knowing that maybe your uncle's uncle has a friend who is an architect. Stuff along those lines, and being able to follow that and being able to get in connection. And then kind of all wrapping this up is the idea of getting your foot in the door, getting to be a fly on the wall, getting your name known. So when you do apply or you do reach out, you're able to, they already know who you are just a little. So you seem a little bit more familiar. And then so how to get starting experience even right now. And that's something I did but never really realized I was doing. And so the first thing is to get a job. And even if it's at McDonald's and you're flipping burgers and you really don't want to, it shows future employers two huge things. First off, it shows that you can show up on time and that you're professional and you understand the workplace environment. And secondly, it shows that you understand money and how money works. And those two things together, just by having a job flipping Big Macs, can really enhance your chance of getting a bigger, better job later on. And then meeting people. And this is through getting a job, through doing an internship, is meeting people and gaining these experiences and making this social networking. That you know people who are in certain jobs that can help you, that you can experience. You can shadow them for a day, or do all this other stuff that helps later on. And then the other thing I want to talk about is not giving up. And this is something that I never really understood. So this summer, or this past fall for summer, I applied to 25 different laboratory researchers. Anyone want to guess how many I heard back from?
0. 1.
0. They don't even tell you, like, thanks for applying. They just don't reply to you. And the deadline comes up and you say, oh, we're going to get back to you on March 15th or March 1st. I got no emails that day. It was a pretty sad day. But that's how it works, but you can't give up. So what I actually did is I also sent out about 50 to 75 emails to people in the Cincinnati area with jobs I was interested in. Researchers, pediatric doctors, surgeons. And I basically reached out and I sent an email, something along the lines of, hi, my name's LeBlanc. I'm a freshman at Xavier University. I'm really interested in your work. And then I added about 2 to 3 paragraphs of showing that I read their research. I took the time and I read all their research, not all of it, but each individual read about a paper of theirs and said, I'm really interested in how the neurotransmitters in ADHD affect the response time when stimulated with an electrical impulse. And so I did this, and then out of those 75, I got 1 reply. And that's because it is very, very easy to delete an email. Oops. There we go. It's very, very easy to delete an email. So what I did is I reached out to this person, and I didn't say, I want a job in your, do you have any internship spots? Because he's going to delete it right away. He doesn't care. He doesn't know who I am. But I just said, will you meet me for some coffee? And so we met, and if you look at people adoringly, like, oh my goodness, that's what you do? So can you tell me about this? Really? That's so fascinating. I don't know any of the words that you're saying right now, but I'm going to pretend like I care. And as a result, at the end, I was like, so do you have any internship opportunities for undergrads? And he says, I don't. I'm like, okay, no worries. Like, he said, no, at least I got to meet him and I got that connection. And then walking out, he's like, where are you looking? I'm like, oh, I applied to all these other places, but it looks like I'm going to be at Cincinnati Breakthrough. Do you know that program? He says, my daughter actually did that program last year. I was like, oh, really? So we talked about that. And he's like, you know what? Next year I'll make an exception. If you do Breakthrough and you have a good experience, come back to me and I'll give you a position for next summer. So I already have something lined up for the summer of 2020 because I took that chance, because I didn't give up. And so that's one thing that you guys I never understood, and maybe some of you guys are with me that you need to keep on trying. People will say no. It's so easy to delete an email from someone you don't know, okay? But if you meet them and you start adoring them, it's really, really hard to say no. Yes?
Just a quick question, because you were saying how experience is needed for all jobs, which is the true thing. Would an internship count as experience?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a perfect example. That it's experience needed builds from other opportunities is what it really is. So an experience, like donating your time in the classroom to like helping another teacher, that's experience. You have experience in the classroom. That's something that can go on your resume. Okay? Yes?
I just want to tell you, working at McDonald's, like, I know a way where you can get rich. Like, if you make $1,000 a month, you can, like, I heard this from a dumb YouTube channel, you can invest it in Google organs and do all kinds of bull crap that I didn't remember. And within 2 years, that money will reach 4.2 million, I mean. It like from 1,000
I haven't heard of that exact one, but I do invest in the stock market very safely. It's something to look into. One last question, then we're going to.
I will ask this one question. How would someone handle annoying customers or entitled customers when they're not leaving on a job?
I think that that's a skill that you're able to develop over time, and that being in that workplace gives you that experience.
Yeah, I just want to get your opinion.
So I'm going to try to change directions for a second, and I'm going to talk about what it means to be a natural science student. And so a natural science student is someone who studies either physics, chemistry, or biology, or a combination of those three. So I'm a biomedical science major on a pre-med track, so this is a little thing I found online, which I think is pretty accurate for the most part. I try not to fall asleep while studying. But overall, there's lots of labs. I have 6 hours of labs a week that are instructed, and then I probably spend another 4 to 6 hours on my own on Fridays going in, reviewing, and getting ready for practical exams. Lots of lab reports. Off of that, if anyone does not know how to work Excel, you might want to take a class online, because everything is Excel based. Lots of articles, lots of dense readings from textbooks, and lots of flashcards. Lots and lots of flashcards. I think I have over 2,000 now. So I just wanted to show you guys a quick day in the life of a Wednesday for me. So most days I wake up at about 7 a.m. I'm trying to get out of bed by 7:20. And then I go study. I do what I call like my boring work. I reply to emails. I look to see if anyone emailed me back, and they normally haven't. I get my coffee here, and then I go eat lunch or breakfast with my friends around like 9 o'clock. And then I go back and I do some like deeper studying. I write some essays, I'll read some articles, read some textbooks, make some flashcards, stuff once I'm woken up doing some real intellectual work. And then I go to chemistry class from 11 to 11:50. And then I go to the gym for an hour, most of the time. Not really. And then I go to the caf for lunch. And then I go to my first year seminar class called Making Babies. There are lots of like fun classes and very interesting of diverse topics. This one's on like the philosophical perspective if babies contribute to the greater good of society. So it's deep and it's not what it sounds like, but it's really interesting. So I would definitely advise all of you to like take a class that just kind of seems interesting when you're in your first year. That maybe like your major doesn't require it, but just seeing what like you like. Like I'm liking philosophy, and I thought it was just an annoying way to give me a headache, but it's actually pretty interesting. And then I go to chemistry lab from 3 to 5:50. One of the best advice for chemistry lab that Mr. Kingsbury ever gave me was know what actually matters. You don't actually need 5.0 grams of a substance, so don't spend 25 minutes measuring it out. If it cancels out in the end, you're fine. So the amount of time that you can save if you know what you're doing is really, really amazing. Compared to the people that are in there looking at the scales for 25 minutes trying to get 5 grams of a solution, I'm almost done my titration. So then I go eat. And when I eat, I don't shove food down my face. It's like time to relax for me. It only take about anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to eat, hang out with my friends. Nice and relaxed. And then I go study. This is just a random picture I found off the internet. I normally study from anywhere from like 5 to 8 hours a night, I would say. I'll talk about that in a second. I try to go to bed, and then I shower, go to bed. This is not my real bed. This is again off the internet. Be sad. Yes, I have sheets. And so I try to go to bed before midnight about every night. One thing that I'll say is I go to bed at 9 o'clock on nights before tests. If you're studying the night before a test, it means you're not prepared. I used to study in high school the night before. Can we just do questions at the end?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And so I used to study the night before tests in high school. If you're studying the night before the test, you know you did something wrong preparing. That's my philosophy behind that. You should be able to relax and just get a good night's sleep. And that's the best thing you can really do. So I broke down the 24 hours. I sleep for about 8 hours, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. I'm in class for 5 hours. Sometimes, this is probably a little overestimate because I get out of chem lab early. Eating 1.5 hours, gym and exercise for an hour, studying 6 to 8, and then fun time, half an hour to 2.5 hours. The reason I do all this is for one reason. Hold on. Oh, no! I get the weekends off, and it is nice, and I can't work PowerPoint. I get to sleep on the weekends. I still do some homework, but I only do like 2 to 4 hours. Normal light reading. I get to watch TV, watch movies, hang out with my friends, go to basketball games. So that's kind of other people have different strategies where they just study equally every day. But this is what I found works for me. And then so, when I was thinking about how much I study, I started to realize that it doesn't actually feel like that much. And I know that putting the 2 to 8 hours or whatever I put seems like a lot, and it seems like, oh my gosh, what are you doing with your life? When you find something that you really love to do, it stops feeling like study. It feels like something that you can enjoy, and the hard part is finding that thing that you enjoy so much. Right? Biology to me and chemistry, I don't think of it, oh, I have to go do bio problems, I have to go work on ice tables. Oh my goodness. That's a chemistry reference. But rather, it's just a way that I can just go and I love doing it. Mind you, there's parts that I hate. I hate writing English essays. They are tiring and I don't like them, but I have to take them. So that's the part of studying I'm not a huge fan of. But the majority of it, the science, the psychology, the social work, all that stuff, I find really interesting. So it stops feeling like studying. But to get there, you need to find what you love to do. And then there's this idea that I'd never really heard of until I got to college of, why is college so hard? Why do you need to study so much? And there's one answer, or one picture that describes it all. That. I don't know what this is called, there's some fancy word for it. But in high school, you're asked to remember, to understand, and sometimes, apply, mostly AP exams. In college, that whole thing is fair game. And in order to be able to create and evaluate, you need to know the bottom. And so by knowing this and understanding this process, you are able to excel and do great, understand what's going to be asked of you. So I'm just going to walk through how I do each step to make sure I can build up. So to remember and understand, first, I'm going to talk about my chemistry class, and I just want to say every class is different, but I'm going to use chemistry because it's the most normal class. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 1 hour. So first, you have to attend class. In high school, you have to be there. Your parents drop you off, you drive, you have to be there. High school, you're on your own. If you don't want to go to class, you don't want to go to class. You don't go, guess what? You failed the class. You wasted your money. That's the truth. So attend class. Take notes in the class. Later that day, copy those notes onto an outline that either the professor provides you or that you make yourself. Okay? This is getting it in your head again. The following morning, create flashcards for yourself. Use those flashcards. Now you've written down the information 3 times, including in class. Okay? And then the night before, go over those flashcards, do any practice problems, and then repeat. And if you do that, that's how I get my understanding remembered. So the night before the test, or the few days before the test, I'm not worried about the content. I know the content. I know the content. I can get every single flashcard. I have a test on Friday. Here are my flashcards for it. I know every single one of them, word for word. If I took the test right now, I'd probably get a 20. Because I only know the flashcards. I can't connect them, I can't do anything like that. So that's the second step of applying and analyzing. So I need to connect what I know right now to other units, to other classes. How does this relate to my psychology class right now? And then anything. What else can I relate this to? Can I relate it to my life? Can I relate it to social construct, Mr. Anderson? Can I relate it to concept maps? That's how I connect everything. I drop a term and try to connect it to all the stuff I can. And then, so finally, evaluating and creating. This is probably the hardest top tier thing, and that's what labs is. Labs is creating and seeing what did I do right, what did I do wrong. And that's why labs are so hard. And then I also make tests before all my big actual tests. I make practice tests. So when I go into the test, I know what I think is going to be on the test. I put myself in the professor's shoes and literally say, if I was a professor, what do I want them to know? And by doing that, when I go into a test, I can probably, if it's a 50 question test, I probably know anywhere from 20 to 30 of the questions and what the answers are going to be. Right there, before I even go in. Because I just think about it from their point of view, and that helps me understand, evaluate, and create better. And then, so my question to you guys is, what would you do? Start thinking now when the stakes aren't that high. High school matters, but I cannot tell you what I got on my SAT score, my ACT score. I don't even know what my GPA was in high school, for being completely honest. Okay? I know that you guys are all worried about it right now and applying to college or worrying about that later on if you're younger, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So experiment. What works for you? Try different things. Go on YouTube. There's so many YouTube videos on how to study. Okay? Try something. If it doesn't work and you get a bad grade on the test, you get a bad grade on the test and don't use that strategy again. Okay? So this is just an example of a question from an AP packet I found from Mr. Farrell my junior year. That was a question. This was a question on my final for biology. So, as you can see, this is talking about thyroid hormone. I don't want to go through all of it right now because this isn't a bio lecture. But you can see it's vastly different just by the word content, knowing the information. This question involves applying and creating. Okay? You need to create what you think it's going to be. You need to evaluate the process. And then, so my final thing I just want to say is anything is possible. Like, if you find what you love, stuff stops being work, in a way. Like, if you stop being down, like, I don't like English, and that's completely fine. But if you find something that you love, it stops feeling like work and it all becomes possible. So the process of that is now finding what you love. And like, if you don't know what that is, it can take a while to find it, and I'm lucky that I found it, because what I love is so conventional. But some stuff, like, some people could love, like, philosophy when applied to ancient Rome. Like, random stuff. And if you find that little thing interesting, go with that. Take classes in that, because there are classes in college about random things. So find those things. So if you guys have any questions, you can either ask them now or feel free to email me. I have my email up there. And citing your sources never goes away. So does anyone have any questions? Yes, Lucy?
What made you choose Xavier?
So I chose Xavier because money. The Midwest, something I wasn't aware of that I'm not sure if you guys know about is certain states are looking for people from certain areas. For example, the Midwest does not have a lot of people on the East Coast. So just from your demographics, they can offer you more money. And I also loved the atmosphere, and when I went, I just felt like I fit in, kind of. So, and I didn't really want to go out there originally because it's so far away. But for people that are looking at colleges now, I recommend opening your horizons just to see what else is out there. Be aware of other things. If anyone by chance is interested in Xavier, I can get you in contact with their recruiter, Jason Cloutier, who's a really nice guy. Yes?
Two things. I'm very sorry for interrupting you with all these questions, right?
You're all good.
And do you know, like, the questions you showed up, do you know the answer to both of those?
Yeah. So this first question is a pretty bad question, because chloroplasts technically make ATP, but it's then used up later on. So I think the question they're looking for is chloroplast, right, Mr. Kingsbury? It could also be lactic acid fermentation. It's a pretty bad question.
Yeah, like we make it glycolysis.
So it's not. We know it's not B or C. Lactic acid fermentation technically makes it, but not really. Kind of. You'll learn about that later. It's kind of annoying. And then this one, I believe it's C, but I'm not going to walk you through that because that would be literally 2 months of my biology career explained to you.
I mean, I run my own business, believe it.
Wow. That's a good thing for a resume. I wish I had that. Anything else? Yes, Rachel?
How much time do you have for like activities on campus that are outside?
That's a good point. So I do a lot of other stuff outside. I'm in the spirit squad for the game, so I get to go to all the men's basketball games, which is pretty nice. I'm also in the biology club and the pre-med track. I'm also in this program called FTC. It's called For the Kids, and it's about like donating money to local children's hospitals. So there definitely is time to do other stuff. One thing I'd recommend is the big three, which is 1, do an activity that you did in high school. 2, do an activity related to your major. And 3, do an activity that you've never done before. And so even though it does seem like I'm very busy with academic work, that I do make time for other clubs and extracurriculars. Yes?
What's your favorite color?
I'm not biased against colors. Mr. Kingsbury?
I was going to ask, from a science, because you're pursuing sciences, what did we do well in terms of getting you ready for science, and what could we do better?
I think on top of everything else, you gave a great foundation that other people lack, that I've learned. That you guys are very lucky to go to South Portland, especially in the science program, because a lot of the information, how it is conveyed in college, is the exact same. I will tell you right now that first year chemistry at Xavier University is honors chemistry with Ms. McVeigh. We do not go into any AP. AP is this semester, okay? It is the exact same. Maybe a little bit harder questions, but it's the same content. What you guys could do better? Labs. Labs are a huge part, and Excel. I know we did a little Excel in AP Bio, or in AP Chem, but everything's Excel. If you know how to work Excel, you're golden. I have hundreds of Excel charts, like A through N, all the way down to like 150, that you have to program out the night before you do the lab, and it's a pain, but it makes your life a lot easier in the end. Yes?
Are there any cracks at Xavier?
No. Yes?
How many different kinds of programs do they have at Xavier?
They have, I don't know the exact number. I know that they have over, I want to say 120 different major and minors, but that could be wrong. I can look that up later. But you can basically get there's so majors there's a major called technology for their human good, or human wellness. So I don't even know what it is, but I've seen it before. Any other questions? Yes?
What are your tips on time management?
So time management is something that everyone struggles with when you go into college, and I definitely did too. And the big thing is just how fast you can figure it out. And I think starting to time manage now and making a calendar now, even though you have all this, I know it doesn't feel like you guys have a lot of free time. You do. But making a calendar now and just going by that calendar. And one thing I really like to do is with all my assignments I get, I put right next to it how much time I think it should take to complete. And so by doing that, when I'm done with it, I'm like, okay, did I procrastinate? Why did this take me an extra hour and a half to do than I thought? What was the reason for that? That kind of just keeps you aware of what you're doing. And I think time management, the biggest thing is just being aware of where that time's going. Did you you thought it would take an hour, it took 2. Is that because you didn't understand how hard it was going to be? Or was your phone out and were you texting the whole time? Yes?
If people are intending to just go right into the workforce, what are the main points that you presented here that carry over into just pursuing the workforce?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I said at the beginning, the networking and all that, still applies. And time management still applies if you're just going directly into the workforce. A lot of the skills that you learn, that you pick up in college, you'll pick up in the workforce just as well. You need to know time management. You need to know how to schedule your time. You need to be able to make connections. And so, a lot of the process is still the exact same. If you're going from here into college, the process is the exact same if you're going from here into the workforce. You're going to learn the same set of skills, you just might not get the same information. Information I mean by content, biology. If you're going into automobiles and working in a workshop, you're going to learn about automobiles in a workshop, not biology and how introns and extrons work. Any other questions? Yes?
So if you're choosing where you want to go to school, would you say the most important thing is where you feel comfortable, or
I think money does, sadly, has to play a role. But I also think that, like, if you're an outgoing person, and I'm a pretty outgoing person, you can find your spot in almost any university or college. I also think that there are, like, if you're set and you love this one university, like, go there and take that, I don't want to say risk, but it kind of is, that financial risk. That being said, there are tons and tons and tons of scholarships. And one thing that's not well known of is there are scholarships once you're in college that you can apply for. That they're a little bit more competitive, they're often more money, and not a lot of people apply, but there's fewer, so it kind of evens out. But like, there are scholarships made for sophomores in biology, and a lot of sophomores in biology don't apply to those. Yes?
How are your classes structured? Do you have homework and what we call formatives here that you get graded on, or do you just have your exams?
So everyone's a little bit different. One of the biggest changes, which a lot of universities are actually doing now, and actually all medical schools for the most part, is doing something called flipped classes. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, where I actually watch the lecture videos outside of class, kind of like Bozeman Science. He does that. He was kind of the first big one to do that, but he published publicly. So my teachers will make a slideshow, and I'll watch them out of class and take notes and make all my flashcards. And then when I go to class, they'll actually give us paperwork, more like application questions, case studies that we do in class to kind of get that upper level knowledge. And then we have quizzes, and almost all my classes have quizzes every single class. So they're 5-point quizzes. I thought that kind of freaks me out at first, like, oh, I need to study. Like, those quizzes are basic knowledge. Those are basically the equivalent to a high school test, just spread out. And then I have tests, about 4 tests a semester, including a final in most of my classes. They don't collect the homework a lot, but if you don't, I can tell you if you don't do the homework, you're not going to do well. That's something I learned from AP Chem. You just, if you do the homework, you do well. It's pretty simple. You need practice makes perfect. Is that what you were looking for? Okay. Yes?
So what's going to happen to you after this year?
Hopefully I'll get into a medical school and I'll go to med school, but medical schools are very, very competitive. Even if you get like a 4.0 GPA and a perfect MCAT score, you still have like a 75% chance of getting in. So like, it's competitive. And if that doesn't work out, I might take a gap year and then reapply, or I might go into research and do research and then apply later on. Thank you guys. That you can't just go in and think, I'm going to get a lab job. That's what I want to do. I want to work in a lab my first time. It's not that easy. Labs are very competitive. Like many other jobs out there, you need experience to get in. And if you think about it, how can you get experience if they're not going to let you into the job? So it's the idea that opportunities really build from each other. So my senior internship built into this Breakthrough Cincinnati internship that I'm doing. And hopefully this puts me on another level, another tier, that the following year I will get into a lab. Or I will get a higher priority internship that will eventually lead me to getting something I really want, like being in a lab. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's this, I know this person who knows this person who is. So that's how I got my internship in my senior year. My mom knew someone, so I was talking to my mom, she's like, well, why don't I reach out to this person? So everyone knows someone in here that interests them, that their job interests them. Your dad's cousin's sister. I don't know what that lineage would be, but that she could be an architect, and you could be really interested in being an architect, and you could go shadow and reach out to them. So that's something that you need to remember and be thinking about in your life. Just talking to people, getting to know. Maybe one of your teachers that you're really close to has a brother or sister, or a son or daughter who's really interested in something, or is doing something, and you're interested in that same thing. And then all this leads to getting your foot in the door, being a fly on the wall, being noticeable, so that when the time comes up to apply for that job, your name is already circulating there. They already know about you. And that's what kind of leads to this. So then how to get experience, which is something that like I never really fathomed that I was doing this whole time, but looking back, I definitely wasn't giving a huge advantage. So first off, get a job. Work at McDonald's. It might sound terrible and you don't want to be flipping Big Macs all day, but it shows future employers, one, you can show up on time, you know the workplace experience, and two, you know a concept called money, and that you know how to spend it and save it and the value of it. And that is huge when you're looking at future employers. And then meet people. I did about 25 applications to different internships this year. 20 of them were medical related internships. I heard back from 0. Like, no, we're not looking for you. They just don't get back to you. And you just have to deal with it and say, okay. But I also sent out about 50 to 75 emails to just professionals around the Cincinnati area, saying, hi, my name is LeBlanc, I'm a biomedical science student at Xavier University. Read their research. It took me hours. I was reading through their papers, being like, what are they studying? I don't want this to be a generic email. And then this is the thing I never understood that I get now. Don't ask for a position right there. Ask for me to copy. It's so easy to delete an email. You can just click delete and they'll never see you again. You ask them to go get a cup of coffee, they'll say, okay, what am I going to lose? And then adore them for as long as they want. Really? I can't believe that. Oh my goodness. So can you please explain this a little bit more, really? And then at the end, just mention, do you have any undergrad positions open this summer? And it's hard to say no to a kid's adoring face that admires you. It is. And so I did that, and I went and I sent out these probably around 60 emails. Heard back from 1. Everyone else clicked that delete button. And but I met with him, and I was like really interested in his work. And he took 3 hours out of his day to meet with me and showed me all his science tools in his lab at Cincinnati Children's. And so at the end, I was like, I know this is a stretch, but is there any way you have, this was before I took my other internship, another opening? He says, I don't actually do undergrads this year, but like, maybe next year, like, I'll keep you posted. And then on my way out, he was saying, where else are you looking? And I said, well, my biggest bet probably right now is to do this Cincinnati breakthrough. And he said, oh really, like, my daughter did that last year. It's a life-changing experience. If you do that, I'll have a spot for you next year. So next year, I already have something lined up just because I didn't give up. Just because I sent out 1 more email. And so that comes from doing an internship, and that's kind of the main point of this. And then, as I said, don't give up. Give that experience. Keep on trying. People will say no. It's very easy to say no, okay? Especially in an email. It's a delete. It's a 1 button that they have to delete, that they don't know you. They don't really care, to be completely honest. But if you get them to meet you in person, they start to care. So, and then I'm going to kind of turn my tables a little and talk about natural science students. So natural science students are students who study chemistry, physics, or biology, or a combination of those 3. So I'm studying biomedical science right now, which is basically a pre-med track that Xavier has. It's kind of just a mish of all 3 of those into 1 major. So this is a meme I found kind of talking about what pre-med students are. It's pretty accurate. But just overall, we have lots of labs. So each week I spend about 6 hours in the lab of instructional time. And then every Friday, I normally go into the labs for about, I'd say anywhere from 2 to 4 hours just on my own, looking at microscopes just to prepare for the tests and quizzes. Lots of lab reports, lots of articles, lots of dense reading, and then lots of flashcards. I probably right now, and everyone's different. Some people hate flashcards and they swear by them. Some people love Quizlet. I like making physical flashcards. And I probably have upwards of 2,000. So just a day in the life of a Wednesday for me. I kind of just thought to show you my overall day would kind of be the best way to articulate what I do. So every day I wake up at 7, give or take a few minutes. I'm normally out of bed by 7:20. And then I go to the student center and I normally do what I call my busy work for the day. I reply to emails, I do stuff that doesn't really take a lot of concentration because I'm still kind of asleep. This is where I get my coffee and just kind of slowly wake up. And then around 9 o'clock I go and I eat some breakfast with some friends at the caf. And then I go back to the student center and I do some more dense work. I start watching lecture videos or writing outlines or writing papers. And then I go to class from 11 to 11:50 for chemistry. And then I go to the gym mostly every Wednesday. Sometimes I fluctuate a little, just based on the day, how much work I have to get done. And then I go eat. So this is a typical morning. We'll continue to the afternoon. And then I go to a class from 2 to 2:50, which is it's a first year seminar called Making Babies. You'll learn in college that there are very interesting classes that I encourage you to take and not just do your major. This is really, although it's kind of science related, it's more philosophical, and I kind of learned like, okay, I kind of like this deeper thinking. So kind of getting into that and realizing that maybe the path you thought was right for you isn't 100%, or maybe you want to minor in something. Maybe you want to just take extra classes. A lot of times students will take extra classes, and at the end they'll graduate and say, oh, I got a minor in this, I had no idea. And so that's definitely something to consider. And then I go to my chemistry lab for 3 hours from 3 to 5:50, or 5:50, yeah. And the trick with chemistry lab, I know that there are some chem students in here, is if you know how the lab works, you are in good hands. If you can speed up the process and know that you don't need exactly 5 grams of something and spend 25 minutes measuring out exactly 5 grams of something, you can be really quick. And that's how you kind of get out of there in less than 3 hours, normally like 2 hours. Then I go eat, and then I go study. And this is just a random picture of someone I found on the internet. And then I go shower, and then I go to bed. And this again is not my bed, it's more decorated. I put this down to 24 hours, and this, like I said, I'm not trying to scare you here, this is just my path, and every major is different. Well, I know one of my best friends is a communications major, and she writes papers a lot, and writes arguments and analyses, and I could not do that. That bores me to death, and I think that would be much worse than this. But her time is spent differently. So this is just my point of view of it. So I sleep for hopefully 8 hours, sometimes a little bit more, especially on nights before tests. I don't study the night before test. There's no good in it. I'll look over my flashcards maybe once, go to bed at 9, not the normal 11 o'clock. I go to class for about 5 hours. This fluctuates. 3 of these hours are in lab. Sometimes I get it out early. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. I eat for 1.5 hours. When I eat, I slow down. I'm not shoving food down my mouth. It's a time for me to relax between classes. I then go to the gym for about an hour, most of the time. And then I study 60 hours. That's the point that I really want to get at is, although it seems like a lot, I'll talk about this later, studying is different in college. And I'll kind of hit on that later. It's not high school studying where you're doing a bunch of papers that you really don't want to do. Okay? Although there is some of that, it's a lot different. And then fun time, half an hour to 2.5 hours. And now this might seem like a lot, but I made it so I get my weekend off. And that being said, I normally do about 2 to 3 hours a day on weekend. But normally it's relaxed, watch movies with my friends, go to basketball games, read, like just honest, relaxing time where I don't need to worry about the content. I sometimes prepare for the next week, but by doing this and by really loading up my week, I can have this time off. And so this is talking about studying. Studying, once you find what you love to do, studying doesn't feel like studying. And loving what you might want to do is something that you might not have come across yet, or might not come across for a long time. And that you might not notice it until you take these other classes. That, oh my gosh, I really like philosophy. Oh my gosh, I really like Latin. Like, high school is very conventional and it's very small. And they force you to take just a little bit of everything in this small circle. There's so much more that you can even imagine. There's a class about embryonic diseases. And if that interests you, you can get a specialization in that. So it's very like knowing what you want to do and finding it. And then when you start studying, like when I study, I don't say, oh, I have to go study bio. I'm like, I get to go read my bio textbook, which seems really nerdy, but I love that textbook. And so everyone's a little bit different. Maybe for you that's a mechanics book if you want to become a mechanic. Maybe that's, it doesn't even need to be technically academically related. I hate that word, academic, like, what does that mean? Everything has something to it. And so you just need to find out what that is. And then just to finish up really quickly, I was, one of my freshman, or not my freshman, my first year, we're not called freshman at all. First year bio teacher showed me this, and it's why college is hard, right there. It's the idea that in high school, you're asked to understand and remember, and sometimes apply AP classes. In college, you are asked to know everything, to be able to create, evaluate, analyze, apply, understand, and remember. So this is just a really quick thing. I'm just going to put them all out there. This is a normal chemistry class, and everyone's different. So I attend class and I take notes. And this is just, like you said, this is just to remember and understand. That's it. That's this concept of it. Attend class and take notes. Later copy those notes onto an outline that either is provided to you a lot of the time or that you make. Make flashcards the next morning, study those flashcards, go to class. I've learned that if you do this, you're pretty set on the first two tiers. You then need to be able to do the other stuff, apply, create. And so to apply and analyze, do it to other units. Teachers often won't do that. They'll say, okay, here's this new content, and then on the test, they use a vocabulary word from the last one, and everyone's like, whoa, 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 that wasn't fair game. Yes, it was. Other classes, teachers are going to be, so does any of this relate to your psychology class that anyone's taking? No, but you need it in your head or on paper. See, oh, we're learning about animal behavior? Well, we're learning about this in psychology. These relate. And actually doubling up. If you can connect things, if you connect, you don't have to memorize. That's my big thing. You can connect concepts. Flashcards are only good for so much. And then anything else that you connect in your life. How does classical conditioning apply to your life? How does automobiles apply to your life? How does physics apply to your life? And then concept maps, I kind of talked about that. I love concept maps. I'll go in a room full of whiteboards and just scribble words. I don't even half the time know what people can't read it. And I'll say, okay, mitosis, how is that different than meiosis? Charts, relating. And then evaluating, creating, that's labs. That's going into labs. That's why labs are so hard. And then I also make tests before big ones. I make my own practice test. I write, I say, question 1, yada, 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 yada. And the reason I do that is it shows myself that I can connect these deeper concepts and make a hard question that could be on the test. And then, so what would you do? That's kind of the thing I want you to think about. How can you do that? Have you ever even thought about going to this deeper level of creating? And then, so this is a question I had on an AP test. It's an AP practice question. It's a pretty level 1 question. And this was on the practice test for my Gen 1 first semester bio class. So as you can see, it's basically talking about thyroid hormone, and you need to know 2 different cycles, and what happens, one goes up, the other goes down, and one cycle. It's kind of complicated. And I think I got it right on the test, but I can tell you what it is right now. I think it's, but it is possible. That's the big thing I want to say here is that if you find what you love, and you might not know what it is now, it is possible to put this time to make that work. And it works. I got very good grades the first semester. And it's not because I didn't study or just got lucky. Some people do get lucky and are really good test takers. And good for them. I am not. I'm a terrible test taker. I need to slow down, I need to read questions over again. But if you study, it can make it work. But the big thing with studying is finding what you love. It doesn't need to be studied, this applies to anything in math. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? And if you don't want to say anything now, you guys can email me at the email over there. Yeah?
When you write those practice tests, has there ever been a question on the actual test?
They've been very similar. I can go into most tests knowing at least what 20 of the 50 questions will be. Being like, I know that they're going to test me on this. I know for a fact that there's going to be a question on this concept, this misconception that a lot of people have. So by doing those practice tests, that's kind of what I get out of it, is knowing I have a higher statistical chance of knowing what's going to be on the test. By looking at it from another perspective.
How does high school compare to college? Like, which parts of school here that they actually teach you
That's a good question. So a lot of it does apply. I don't want to say like, oh, it doesn't, it's so different. It's like, a lot of it is the same. It's just, a lot of college is less babysitting. Professors want you to do good at the end of the day, but they are not someone to say, oh, God, care. They're getting their paycheck no matter what. Like, and so that's the biggest difference. The biggest similarity, I think, is the idea that they want you to learn. And I've learned that, like, although that they don't necessarily care about individual grades, they care about you as a well-being. And I think South Point prepares you for that. And you just, if you're a good individual and you care about your grades and you go to office hours and see professors, you will do good. And I think South Point prepares you with those skills. Because every South Point class is slightly different. If you're more interested in history, you're going to get more history stuff in high school, science. So I don't want to say like, oh, they prepared me for science in the laboratory, because that doesn't apply to it. I think overall, South Point does a good job at making everyone a good individual that can then succeed like on a personal level.
How many of these study strategies that you talk about, which I think are brilliant, did you get them in college, Andrew, or how many of these were you doing last year?
I think a few of them I was doing last year, but not to the caliber that I thought I could do them. I was like, look at me, I'm doing concept maps senior year, like, I know all my stuff. Dude, those concept maps were not the same. They were on a piece of paper this big and maybe 25 terms. So it's definitely, start experimenting now before, like high school matters, and I don't want you to say that. I could not tell you my class rank, I could tell you one of my AP scores. The other ones, no idea. Couldn't tell you my GPA. It really doesn't matter, and I know there's this whole threat. What'd you do on the SAT? Oh, I said, I did 10 points better than that. No one really cares. Like, at the end of the day, if you want to get into college, you're going to get into college. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I wish I knew that earlier, and then like, you guys are probably listening like, and then I'm going to go out there and talk about your SAT scores, and that what I say probably won't change that. But start experimenting now. If you get one bad grade because you experimented and it didn't work on a test, you know that doesn't work for you. Compared to college, where if you're looking at pre-med or graduate school or anything like that, it will affect, like it does affect later on, because that's what they look at. When I applied to med school, they're not going to say, what was your high school GPA? Like, that's not something they really ask for. So definitely experiment now. And I think I experimented in high school, and then when I got to college, I should have experimented more. And it took me about a month to really hone in on these study tips I got.
You also, when you were in high school, were involved in band and other things. How important are those other things to college or to whatever career you're choosing?
Yeah,
Be well-rounded.
Yeah, so definitely balancing out. I still play the trumpet, I still play piano. Definitely stretching yourself out, not doing all academics. I kind of didn't put that in there, but I'm part of the spirit squad. So I go to all the basketball games and certain ones I work. I'm part of the pre-med track, which sounds like, oh, that's science. We literally get coffee once a month and just talk to each other. Like, it's pretty, go to events. Like, I won a free Echo Dot the other day for putting my name in a raffle at something. I got to, like, you know those, like, knock-ins, like, wipeout things that they have with the blow-ups? Got to do one of those. Like, I want to do events. Like, just have fun and just do as much as you can. And the big rule they have is the rule of 3 when you go to college, which I never really heard of it. Do one thing that you've never done before as a club. Do one thing that's related to your major, and do one thing that you did in high school that you want to continue doing. And that's normally about the normal commitment. Is 3 clubs is probably like the average amount.
Is that it? Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing all of this, because you bring a lot of memories back from college, which I had a great experience, but yes, it was independent. It was a lot of work. One question for you, living on your own, you're on campus, correct?
Yes.
And if you're belonging to all of these clubs and going to all of the different locations, have you been approached by credit card companies trying to fill out credit cards?
Yeah, you get that. Like, they'll be like, especially in the student center, because the student center will sell slots, like little tables, because it's a business. And they'll be like, they'll try to like bait you with something that looks really nice. Like a lot of like, go to Hawaii, you get our credit card points, or like, you just kind of need to, I just blow it off. Like, it looks tempting, but just knowing that there's always another side to it, I think is a really important thing to just kind of know. And there's lots of other things kind of like that that you're tempted with at college that like maybe you don't necessarily know about, or you need to Google or figure it out, or call someone that maybe has a little bit more.
So, you're welcome to
Yeah, feel free to email me.
So if you need it, if you don't have Andy's email with you right now, if you do have a question, talk to your teachers, talk to me, and we can continue to make those connections. Thank you folks for coming down.
Thank you.